Greetings, Miss Story Mystery here with another collection of creepy tales of mysteries and oddities from around the web. Please like and subscribe and check out my other videos for more scary content. I was spending the night in a haunted hotel in Oklahoma City that is known for having ghosts that terrorize NBA players on opposing teams. The hotel was built in the early 1900s and said to be haunted by the ghost of a maid called Effie. Legend says that Effie had a relationship with the hotel's founder, W.B. Skirvin. When it was discovered that she was with child, he locked her in a room on the top floor. Distraught, Effie plummeted from the hotel window. The hotel has an interesting history, all in all. Having been known as a speakeasy during Prohibition, it has also been the host of many famous and interesting faces through the decades. It was closed for over a decade, fell into disrepair, only to become an urban exploring hotspot before being completely renovated and reopened. Guests have reported unexplained noises, objects moving unexpectedly, and even being touched by something or someone unseen. As for me and my experience, I had a lovely evening, including dinner at the hotel restaurant and an after-dinner drink in the piano bar. We went back to the room, settled in, and fell fast asleep with no problems. At some point in the night, I had a dream that someone was in the room moving around. It was just this dark shadow slowly going across the room. In my dream, I just watched it move. Then I woke up. When I awoke, the room was dark, but there was also a dark figure of a person literally standing beside the bed right next to me. It was clearly a human form just standing there. I thought maybe I was still dreaming at first, but I was too conscious, you know? It wasn't like being in a dream state. I reached out to feel if anything was actually there. I grabbed onto what looked like this thing's left arm and pulled on it. This thing fell onto the bed right across my upper legs. I could literally feel the weight of this figure on me. I started to yell out and bolted upright in bed, trying to push this thing off of me. My significant other wakes up in a panic, wondering what's wrong, and the thing is gone. I almost maybe would have chalked it up as sleep paralysis, which I have never experienced, but aside from the hotel's haunted history and other guests' experiences, my SO said he was hearing noises around the night as though someone was moving through the room. Maybe it was Effie, maybe it was someone or something else, but I wasn't able to fall asleep again that night until the sun started to rise and those little bits of light started coming in through the closed curtains. A friend of mine was taking a shower in her dorm room one night. The building where her dorm was located is around 100 years old. A lot of creepy stuff has happened over the past decades, including an exorcism around 15 years ago. As my friend is showering, out of nowhere, bang, 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 bang. The door sounded like it was going to break down. While the banging is still going on, my friend jumped out of the shower, ripped open the door, to nothing but her empty room. The door to her dorm was locked too. Woke up in the middle of the night and saw a string of electricity crawling up the wall onto the ceiling like static electricity. It would appear and reappear at various spots around the room. The creepy part was my two cats were tracking it as well, and at some points actively trying to catch it. I think it was the cats that woke me. 2008, mountain bike race in the Midwest. It was 100 degrees that day, almost no oxygen on the woods. It was a hot day. 3 of us were well ahead of the pack. We were about to lap another racer when he just rode off the trail and down a steep ravine. All 3 of us stopped. The ravine was steep and very deep. We found his bike halfway down. We never found the racer. They sent search party and found nothing. To this day, he's never been found. I was babysitting my cousin's 2 young daughters one night. I was about 14 at the time. The oldest kid was 3 years, and the other was around 2 months old. I'd put the 3-year-old to bed at around 7:30 p.m., and the baby had settled in her crib just after 9, so all I had to do was sit and watch TV until her parents got back. At around 11 p.m., I was cuddled up on the sofa with my cousin's black Labrador when I heard the older girl scream and start to cry. I hurried up the stairs, hoping to shush her before she woke the baby. The dog followed me as far as the staircase. He got to the stairs and just sat down, staring after me. I didn't think about it at the time. My focus was on the kid. But that dog was allowed upstairs, though there were times where he simply wouldn't always go up there, no matter how much you begged or bribed him. I get to the kid's room, and she's standing up on her bed crying her heart out. She sees me come through the door and immediately begins to scream, "The man, the man," whilst frantically pointing to the corner to my left, blocked from my view by the open door. Thinking intruder, I charge in and grab the kid off the bed. I don't look in the corner. Some instinct tells me not to look, to just grab the girl and go. Even as I turn around and dash out of the room, I don't look in that corner. I just keep my head down, pointed toward the wall, and run. On my way to the stairs, I pass the baby's nursery and go in to grab her. To my utter surprise, this helpless newborn was lying in the middle of the floor about 8 feet away from her crib. The sides of the crib were still securely up, so she couldn't have rolled out, and I very much doubt the 3-year-old could have lifted the baby over the railing of the crib or even battled with the railing to put it up and down. Downstairs, the dog begins to half bark, half whine. I scooped the baby up off the floor and fled for the stairs, baby in one arm and holding the 3-year-old's hand with my free hand. I think I more or less dragged the kid down the stairs. Her feet couldn't possibly have kept up with my charge down the stairs. The dog was hiding under the hall table. I shouted his name, hoping he'd follow us, but he just whined in response. I left him, going through the kitchen and out of the back drop into the garden, where a gap in the hedge took me straight to the neighbor's garden. I hammered on their back door, shouting for them to please answer. The poor neighbors had obviously been in bed. Nonetheless, they let me and the kids inside their house, and the woman stays with us in the living room whilst her husband and teenage son go to check out my cousin's house. The 3-year-old is still hysterical, blabbering about the man. The neighbors return and report that all windows and doors were locked apart from the back door I'd fled out of, and there were no signs of a break-in. They'd mentioned the double closet doors in one of the rooms. The 3-year-old's were open, but they'd made sure no one was hiding in there. The dog still refused to move from under the hall table. They let us stay in their house until my very drunk cousin and her equally drunken husband returned from their night out just after midnight. They sobered up pretty quickly with concern when they found us at the neighbor's house. Back in their house, I told them what's happened whilst I waited for my dad to pick me up. I was supposed to stay over at my cousin's house, but that was not going to happen. I wanted out of there. Neither of them seemed at all surprised at what I'd said. Apparently, the 3-year-old often complained of the man, and that she'd even taken to tying the handles of her closet doors together with string so that they wouldn't open, and became upset when the man untied them. They simply said he was her imaginary friend. She was reacting pretty hysterically about something imaginary. Next day, I called my cousin to check if everything was all right. She confirmed everything was fine now, but then told me that when they went to bed after I'd left, the 3-year-old refused point blank to sleep in her room, so she slept in her parents' bed with her mother, whilst her dad slept in her room. During the night, he's woken up to see a pair of legs standing in front of his face. Not wanting to see who was attached to those legs, he closed his eyes for a few seconds, and when he opened them again, nothing was there. 12 years on, I still don't like visiting my cousin's house. The 3-year-old is now 15 and still ties her closet shut, and the baby is now 12 and often complains of Whiteface, who stands at the top of the stairs and stares at her if her bedroom door is open. According to her description, he has no eyes, no nose, and no mouth, just a blank, white face. When I was in high school, I used to work at a movie theater. One night, while doing a theater check, I stopped and looked at one of my managers and told her that we were going to get hit by lightning. Maybe 10 to 15 seconds later, lightning struck. We had to evacuate because we lost power. Didn't get the power turned back on till the next afternoon. One day I was sitting with my dad watching TV. As I remember it, everything seemed to slow down as I blinked. I distinctly remember the TV flickering, the sound going out, our conversation being dropped, and a large shadow blocking the sun outside. I asked him about it, and he felt the same thing. It's almost like we lost a second of our life without an explanation. I lost an opal ring that my father had given me. A few years later, I'd moved to a new house in a different town. My son, who hadn't even been born yet when the ring was lost, was digging with a spoon underneath the concrete slab that served as a patio. He pulled out the ring that I'd lost years before. I've never been able to figure out how the ring not only got to the new location, but also got underneath the concrete slab that had been poured long before I lost the ring. I still have the ring, and sometime during its travels, the opal was cracked. We had a haunted object we bought over the summer, I swear to God. We went to an auction place, and I found this box of statues that looked decently cool, and I needed some book stops, so I just bought the whole box of them. They all came together. Well, there was this one that we later learned was Moses with horns. Well, anyways, this thing was haunted, I swear. First, I had it in my room, and I couldn't effing get to sleep or stay asleep. At first, I attributed it to my insomnia, since I've always had trouble sleeping. The thing that was weird, though, was I always felt like I was being watched, which is why I couldn't get to sleep. Nothing crazy happened there other than the odd feelings. We had a hallway/staircase that led upstairs to my room, and an adjacent room where my sister and her husband were living. At the top of that stairwell was a closet, which is where I moved the statue. Here's where the really weird stuff starts. First thing that happened was my sister walked down the stairs to take the dog outside. While she was getting the dogs ready to go outside, mind you, she's at the bottom of the staircase, she effing screamed at the top of her lungs because she said she thought her husband or I had run down to her and yelled her name in her ear in a harsh whisper, like we were trying to get her attention or scare her, but did it in a hushed voice. And both of us were upstairs playing a game. She was freaked the F out, but my brother-in-law and I both thought one of us must have just been talking about her and she heard our voice, although neither of us did say her name. We wrote it off as if it was nothing. A week goes by and another freaky thing happens in the stairwell. Our oldest dog walked up to the second stair on the staircase and started barking like crazy upstairs. This dog, while he was always the barker, only barked when someone or something, like neighbors walking their dog, was near the house. Anyways, he gets on the second stair and just barks like crazy up the stairs. My mother and father witnessed this one alone, and they said they tried to get him back and to get him to be quiet because they were watching a show. They said he barked for like 30 seconds, and then the effing fire alarm upstairs went off for no reason. The batteries weren't dead or anything. My dad is not a superstitious man, and he said it scared him quite a bit. Another week passes, and I'm laying on the couch going to sleep because I'm still having a little bit of trouble sleeping upstairs, although not as bad as I had been. My younger dog, who's full of energy and effing fearless, was laying on my legs as I was going to sleep on the downstairs couch. He got up and sprinted to the stairs like he was pissed. He got up to about the second step, but jumped on the third step sideways to run back down and lay on me, again in a full sprint. Once he lay back down on me, he was shaking and just looking at the stairs. I woke up my parents and slept in the other room because I was scared to death. The next week we cleaned out the closet and threw every damn statue that came in the box, except this cool clock statue that was in another room that never caused any trouble. Within a week, I was sleeping up in my room again. Every one of the weird things happened on a Friday. The yelling in the ear thing happened around noon on a Friday. My parents said the fire alarm one happened around midnight on a Friday, and the last dog experienced happened around 1 a.m., which isn't midnight, but close enough to scare the F out of me. I don't know if it was just a coincidence and a bunch of weird stuff, but my entire family to this day thinks that damn Moses statue was haunted. One night I woke up slightly and reached out to use the wall to push myself onto my other side, and I half fell out of bed. My bed was 4 feet from the wall, where it was usually flush against it. I slept in the living room for a week, but it never did happen again. My family and I had just moved into a 2-bedroom home. My sister and I were to share rooms, of course. I was 14 and she was 10 at the time, so we were always fighting. On like the 3rd night there, we were getting ready for bed, and suddenly I started seeing black stuff floating. They were tiny. Naturally, I thought I was dizzy. Before I could say anything, my sister blurts out, "What the heck?" And I asked her, "You see it too?" These tadpole-like things were literally slowly floating and making their way down to the floor. One landed on my bed, and we both got close, and we could see the tail wiggling. I grabbed a pencil that was barely sharpened and gently touched whatever it was with it, and it literally deteriorated and turned into dust. There were about a handful, and they were all wiggling by the tail. They all also fell apart. On my way to work one morning, I was sitting at a stoplight alone. The light turned green, and when I went to lift my foot off the brake, it felt like something held my leg in place, and my natural reaction was to see what it was. Nothing was there, and at that moment, a semi-truck ran the red light. It would have annihilated me if I went on green. I think about that a lot. I hope you enjoyed these creepy tales. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will be back with more mysteries and oddities from around the web soon.